What's up, Guardians, and welcome back, Titans. I'm Profane, thanks for checking out the video. At the start of Heresy, more than 30 exotics saw adjustments to their functionality, and today we'll be checking out an incredibly powerful Titan build that is the result of one specific exotic rework. The Insurmountable Skullfort received adjustments to its intrinsic trait, called Transfusion Matrix, and this now provides us with a more consistent and more reliable source of bonus melee energy and bonus health regeneration. This provides complete restoration of melee energy after a powered melee final blow, and it grants instant health regeneration too. And in the times where you don't have your charged up melee option, those non-powered melee final blows will grant bonus melee energy, just not as much. You'll even gain bonus melee energy whenever using glaives, and there's a lot of good options within that archetype right now because of their ability to stun unstoppable champions. These changes have directly improved the viability of the Skullfort, and it gives Titans a fresh new exotic to build around whenever using Prismatic and Standard subclasses. With the current seasonal focus fixated on arc and bolt charges, it makes it pretty advantageous to use the Insurmountable Skullfort with a standard arc subclass. The Juggernaut aspect receives some adjustments, and it's much more durable than before, and it provides bolt charges when shattered. This pairs up really well with the Seismic Strike to give you a continuous frontal shield before crashing into enemies. You'll be able to rely on continuous bolt charges, giving your grenades, Seismic Strikes, and other abilities even more potency. And you'll have Amplified, giving you bonus resistance, which you can stack on top of Spark of Resistance to gain even more durability whenever surrounded. The Skullfort doesn't really need to be ran with the knockout aspect, but by using these together, we'll give ourselves an increase to the damage of powered and unpowered melees, granting powered melees with a 50% increase, with unpowered melees gaining a 100% increase in damage. This makes for a really fun setup that's going to see you creating constant arc explosions that will keep enemies blinded and jolted, making them easy targets for you to crash into, giving you an incredible setup to use against dense group of enemies and most general level content right now. But even with all the extra power-ups, the standard arc subclass lacks the proper survivability to be able to outlast enemies in more difficult content. And that's where the prismatic counterpart of the setup becomes a much more reliable option. With Prismatic, we're able to carry over the benefits of Knockout and Thunderclap and enjoy the benefits of Radiance and even Darkness abilities like Sever and Unravel, and that greatly expands the versatility of the Insurmountable Skullfort because, as you can see in the footage, we're able to continuously recharge our energy, giving us back-to-back Thunderclaps. Plus, we're still able to reap the benefits of Bolt Charges. We're not going to be able to build them as fast, but we are going to be able to rely on them as a consistent source of bonus damage. What I like most about using the Skullfort on Prismatic is that you can pair it up with the Drinker's Lash aspect and Shackle Grenades. This way we can suspend enemies and get them trapped up in the air before they get popped by our Thunderclap. This is going to help ensure that we're always hitting our target and maximizing how many targets we can get trapped in our Thunder. Thunderclap can be charged up for maximum damage and maximum range, and I would recommend doing this if at all possible, because it will help you take down more enemies at once, which will help ensure that melee energy gets regenerated. And if we're using armor mods like Hands On, we're going to see our super energy coming back to us very quickly with all the enemies that we're clapping. I find that this Prismatic Skullfort Thunderclap brings a similar appeal as to what Consecration did. You're able to repeatedly slap around enemies with your powerful melee, and that spreads across large areas. And just as we've had with Consecration, we're able to add in all the darkness debuffs, thanks to Drinker's Lash, Shackle Grenades, and our Transcendency. And you can easily integrate in shotguns that have 1-2 punch or trench barrel to amplify your damage output even more. It's not as powerful of a combination as Consecration was, but this does give us a fresh new way of playing Prismatic Titan, and it is extremely effective, especially right now in Heresy. I will be leaving dim and Mobalytics links to both setups down in the description, so if there is anything that we don't touch base on here in the video, you should be able to find that there. We mentioned that one key benefit to running this exotic on Prismatic is that we'll gain Radiance. This will be done through the use of the Facet of Dawn fragment, and that's going to go great with our continuous use of Thunderclap. Every time we strike enemies with it, we'll gain 5 seconds of increased weapon damage, giving all weapons a 20% increase. Defeating enemies with Thunderclap will share that Radiance with teammates. And when we're Radiant, our weapons will gain the ability to pierce barrier champion shields, unless they're already assigned to another champ. We've also got Facet of Courage active, so when we suspend enemies or trigger any darkness debuff, like Unravel, Sever, Suspend, Freeze, and Slow, our light-based abilities like our Thunderclap and Thunder Crash will deal 10% more damage. We'll gain the same resistance bonuses on Prismatic as we would with Arc, but where things are drastically different is with our Transcendency. When this is active, the Facet of Protection will provide us with as much as a 32% bonus in resistance whenever we're surrounded by enemies. Facet of Balance and Facet of Awakening would both be terrific fragments to help the uptime of our abilities. The Skullfort will provide us with a lot of bonus melee energy, but if we don't land a final blow with Thunderclap, we're not getting all of our energy back, so that's where fragments like Facet of Awakening or Facet of Balance would be able to step in and bridge the gap. We could also fall back on Melee Kickstart, which is an armor mod that would convert armor charges into melee energy. But either direction is simply just to provide a failsafe for us whenever Skullfort doesn't bring back the clap. On the Arc variant of this build, we have several ways of generating bolt charges, but things are a little more limited when it comes to Prismatic. With the use of Facet of Purpose, we will gain a stack of bolt charges each time we collect an orb. With the use of armor mods like Reaper, Heavy Handed, and Siphon, we will be able to generate a ton of orbs to be able to give us a reliable way to build up and trigger those charges. And those orbs of power would help fuel Melee Kickstart, but what I think works out better for us here on Prismatic is the use of weapon surge mods. We're already gaining a 20% bonus when Radiance is active, so why not throw on another 10 or 17% damage? It's going to help us mow down enemies much easier whenever we follow up after a Thunderclap, and that's when the benefits of shotguns with 1-2 punch and trench barrel will really start paying off. There's a lot of powerful options for us with this build, both in terms of exotic and legendary weapons. The Risk Runner is by far one of the safest options, as it grants an overshield, but that's only going to happen when you receive arc damage. But the Ergo Sum with Arc Conductor could be an easy trade out. There's also the Centrifuge, the Trinity Ghoul, the Queenbreaker, and Thunderlord that would all make for amazing exotic options. And when it comes to legendary options, we really want to look for the arc weapons that come with jolting feedback and Volt Shot. There's also a new perk called Rolling Storm, which will help us build up bolt charges faster, so that would be a great option for us, and it can drop on the Psychopomp Area Denial Grenade Launcher. Because of artifact mods like Horde Shuttle, Unraveling Orbs, and Disruptor Break, we do have an incentive towards running strained weapons, especially those that come with Slice or Tear. So weapons like the Scatter Signal, the Call, or the Adamantite would fit in nicely. There is the Photonic Flare artifact mod that's available right now, and that's going to cause arc abilities to trigger blinding explosions whenever used against severed enemies. Blinded enemies are taken out of combat temporarily, which makes them super easy targets to Thunderclap. This also stuns unstoppable champs, so it's an absolutely perfect option for us to pair up with Thunderclap. We just need to be sure to trigger those severing effects first. The Insurmountable Skullfort pushes us towards playing more aggressively. Between the bonus health regeneration, the severing, and the bonus damage resistance, we're going to be extremely safe when playing aggressive, even in in-game content. So if you haven't checked out this amazing exotic here in Heresy, well, it's about damn time you do so. This is such a fun and powerful exotic to use right now, and we've now covered 2 incredible subclass options to build around. If you need help setting up either version of today's build, you can find links to DIM and Mobalytics for both down in the description below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Insurmountable Skullfort and its recent changes, and what builds you've been enjoying the most so far here in Heresy. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.